It's a way of the Mr. Quickie, oh yeah. There are large and numerous groups of people both here in America and all over the world who believe that the tribal war god of Abraham is just the most awful, capricious, punitive, petty, vindictive, malevolent, vicious, unrelenting, unforgiving, unkind, sadistic asshat ever conceived of by the mind of woman. And one would presume man as well. In their view, the tribal war god of Abraham is, to put it mildly, just not very nice. Certainly not someone you'd want to hang out with for all eternity, or even a person you'd call in a pinch. Of course, many of you will assume that I'm talking about atheists and anti-theists like myself, people who publicly proclaim this very thing any time we get a chance. That would be incorrect, or at least incomplete. Nope, I'm talking about Jews, Christians, and Muslims. No other collection of people on earth believe more passionately, sincerely, and with greater urgency that God is an unbearably mercurial prick. And the more committed, the more fundamental these people are in their views regarding their various holy books, the bigger prick God is said to be, again, by believers. These folks believe that God punishes nations both passively and actively, as though he pays attention to national borders based on the behavior of the people within those borders. More specifically, he keeps track of the laws which govern a particular nation and whether they align with his goals and preferences. If not, he'll allow citizens time to repent as if he doesn't already know what they'll do, ultimately releasing the Kraken if they don't. After believers took down the Twin Towers on 9/11, Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell took to the airwaves to make this very point, telling viewers that the attack was at least partially the fault of the gays and lesbians, the abortionists, the pagans, I guess that means me, the ACLU, and the people for the American way, all of whom had been secularizing America. You helped this happen, Falwell said, referring to these groups. And yet, of the many thousands of people who suffered that day, both directly and indirectly, it's a safe bet that quite a few were believers who were not abortionists, gays or lesbians, pagans, or people who support the secularization of America. Meaning God fucks over his own people regardless of their culpability, even when they're doing exactly what he wants them to do. That's the opinion of believers. Christians and Muslims take this to a whole nother level, believing that God will torture sentient, conscious creatures, beings who can experience intolerable suffering forever and ever, simply because they didn't believe the exact right thing, and regardless of how well, virtuously, and/or nobly they've lived their lives. Here's the topper. These believers are convinced that conscious eternal torment is something non-believers will absolutely deserve. Even worse for the believer, there's no objective way for the faithful to know with any degree of certainty whether they will be spared from this eternal torment, causing believers to live their entire lives in a state of willful ignorance, blindly assuming they will be spared, or genuinely fearful of what's to come, which again makes God an unbearably mercurial prick, leaving even believers to wonder whether the tribal war god of Abraham will eventually direct his vicious vindictiveness at them, either because non-believers in their various countries will bring God's wrath down on everyone with their disobedience, or because maybe they didn't do or believe exactly as they were supposed to, landing them right next to Richard Dawkins, Celine Dion, and Michael Bublé in the afterlife. Wonderful and fantastic indeed. Once again, I'm me. Thanks for watching. Hey gang, thanks again for watching. You know, a lot of people think that Jesus' willing death on the cross was the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate act of love, the act which saves us all from a fate worse than death. But I think I've got Jesus beat. Every month for more than a decade and a half now, I have put my own physical, mental, and spiritual health in jeopardy, watching an horrendous litany of content so vile, so intellectually profane and vapid, few others would survive with their sanity intact. I willingly, happily march into that storm for you, knowing that while I may indeed have to expose you to the poison, I will always come bearing the antidote, the cleansing power of reason and the inevitable influence of satire, snark, and whimsy. I don't merely enlighten as some others do. I entertain as well. If only I had been there for Kurt. And this is no one-time 36-hour gig for me, crashing in the tomb of some rich guy and waking up to your eternal envy and admiration. No. This is an everyday salacious slog through a wasteland of sophistry so depraved it makes their Lord's brief time on the cross look like a Friday night at the Playboy Mansion. On top of that, I'm doing what I can to spare us all, not from some imagined hell, but the real thing, the Judeo-Christian right, who would do for America what the Taliban has done for Afghanistan. They've already taken our sisters' bodily sovereignty, seized our tax dollars for religious education, and put prayer back in schools where it has absolutely no business. And St. Justice Thomas has made it perfectly clear they're just getting started. Now, I'm not the type to beg, I think you know that. But if you can afford to, head on over to patreon.com/Mr. Deity and become a patron. If that's too much of a commitment, seek the help of a professional and hit that thank you button just below the video to give what you can right now. I may not be conquering death and rising from the dead, but I am raising awareness and hopefully making you smile. That's got to be worth something, right? To all of my wonderful patrons and everyone else who's helped out, thank you, 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 thank you. And I'll see you again real soon, if you don't see me first.